It's been a few months since I've made a video. I've just been busy, and to be honest, I'm not really that great when it comes to the editing stuff. So it's been just a challenge just making some of these videos, but I've got a few upgrades to the 4Runner. But for this episode here, I really want to focus on my new off-road overland camper trailer. We just completed a 6,000-mile road trip all the way through all the big parks: Yellowstone, Yosemite, Grand Tetons, Cascades, Olympia, and as well as a few of the other monuments like Dinosaur National Monument. We camped out for a little over 5 weeks in the camper, night after night, and I feel like I've been able to give a more accurate review out of this now, other than my first impressions of it all. So we'll go ahead and go into the features of it all, my pros and cons, usability of it, and just, you know, kind of any other extra opinions that I may have. So this is my 2024 Venture Overland Camper XTR Off-Road Edition travel trailer. And it's designed to be like a teardrop, but it's more angular than the teardrop. It's more usable space inside of it because of that. And due to it being at the same roofline as the vehicle, it's not important for aerodynamics, at least not as much. First thing that I optioned with this trailer here, because I did have it custom made for me, is the lock and roll hitch. This is just a feature. You can buy these yourself and install them later on. There are two main types of like 360 articulating hitches. Lock and roll is the one that I went with here, and you get the full swing 90 degrees each direction at this hinge point here, and then 180 degrees or 90 degrees of swing. The main pro of this here is that not only do you get better articulation than a ball hitch where it could potentially pop off, you also get the added security of it being just a strange overall hitch. So unless somebody's going to winch up the front of the trailer, it's really unlikely they're going to have this really odd one-off style hitch. So it's kind of like a double security slash more capable off-road type of hitch here. The other thing that's kind of just like a side pro to it all, which isn't really going to be most people's considerations, is the fact if the trailer were to ever roll, it wouldn't take the vehicle with it. So this could roll a couple times and drag the rear end and reposition the rear end of the vehicle without flipping the vehicle. So there's kind of the features to that. The trailer was optioned with trailer brakes, and the 4Runner has a 4-pin connector, and I didn't want to wire in a trailer brake controller, considering that, you know, utilizing the trailer brakes and mountain passes and stuff is not going to be as common as our weekend getaways. So I do have a wireless Bluetooth brake controller. These are kind of new to me, and this has nothing to do with the trailer itself. It's just a really amazing tool and feature where it just pretty much sandwiches itself between your vehicle and your trailer, and you have an app and you can set the intensity and the strength of your brakes. It's a really neat feature actually, and this is a total lifesaver. This is where it comes in handy, where if you got a Subaru, a light pickup truck, any vehicle, this can make it happen with your trailer brakes. So go ahead and cut that now. Up front in the battery box slash auxiliary storage box, I optioned it without a battery because I wanted to pick which one was going to suit my needs the best. So if you come take a look in here, I have a 300 amp hour battery from a company called Golden Mate. It is a China brand battery, but it was incredibly affordable. It was like 600 bucks for this 300 amp hour battery. Usually they're like $1,000. It's got a built-in battery management system and warranty, so why not? It barely fits in the box here, but with this 300 amp hour battery, we can go 3 days, 4 days, charging our equipment, using electricity without any solar, any charging, and still have enough battery at the end of the day here. On top of that, I do have a DC to DC slash solar battery charger that utilizes the MPPT technology, so it's just as much potential charge as possible. Max is at 400 watts, so I have two 100-watt solar panels on the top of the trailer here. Plus, I have the ability to plug it in with an Anderson connector right off of my alternator. So I'm always at a max charging of 350 to 400 watts. Top off the battery within the road trip from one camp spot to the next. It's honestly one of my favorite little features when it comes to the electrical upgrades here. Okay, to make sure that we're completely comfortable in all seasons of the year, Venture Overland Campers actually does option out a heater. I believe they do that with their larger trailers, like their off-road XL version where they have a built-in diesel heater. I already have one, and I also already had a portable air conditioner, which I bought in preparation for this. So I have kind of my own auxiliary setup with this, where I can take the AC or the heater and use it anything and anywhere. Rooftop tent, hub tent or the trailer. And I have these nice little ports on the front here, and you can just run a hose from either one of these and plumb it right into the trailer. And when it comes to those really, really hot days, especially if you have a pet, we traveled with our kitten when we were road tripping, and you want to be able to guarantee that they're comfortable with a long battery life. This AC not only has a built-in battery, but we can power it off of the main battery due to the fact that we also have a 1,000-watt inverter. And so this will last for 8 to 10 hours running off of the whole battery system here, and then another 4 hours off of the small auxiliary battery built into the side of this here. And it'll get the trailer down to around 75 degrees when it's 95 outside. And if you shut off the AC, it'll stay cool in there for a few minutes, maybe 15 minutes. It's pretty well insulated. It works better with heat when it comes to trapping insulation. And so that said, you can run the AC on the inside or the outside for maximum cooling, for the recirculating cooling on the inside, or put it on the outside to make it nice and quiet if you're sleeping through a hot night. And when it comes to talking about hot nights, we actually have a feature on this tent, which is kind of a new overall feature to the overland off-road teardrop trailer scene these days, as people are getting out of rooftop tents and into the little campers here. And that is going to be the Treehouse Bunk Edition, which basically is an A-frame style rooftop tent that VOC, mounted and bolted to the roof of their 10-foot edition XTR off-road camper here. So I'm going to go ahead and deploy the tent here, and we can go ahead and check it out and how it looks. But the point that I mentioned in terms of temperature is, on a hot night, if you don't want to bother with the AC, you can just pop the tent, zip everything up, and just be in a nice cool environment. So let's go ahead and get the tent popped up here. So Venture Overland Campers decided to use the Overland Vehicle System Mamba tent, which is probably the heaviest off-road, or the heaviest rooftop tent in the market. It's 250 pounds out of the box. So when it comes to putting it on top of your car, especially a mid-size, not a good idea. My current rooftop tent, which I'm now getting rid of, is 135 pounds in perspective, and that is really heavy when it comes to cornering and off-roading. So all the zippers are zipped up, so it's a little slow to open up right now. But as you can see, you get your nice A-frame style strap to pull it on down, and we do have some little pulls here that will hold this out and convert it into an awning. I'm sure everyone's seen how this is done, so we're just going to leave this down for now. Alrighty, so one of the things I love about the color scheme here is just white and black always looks good. White keeps the heat away, and the black makes a nice little mirror, so that way you can, check out yourself, do a little vanity cleanup as you're getting out of your campsite. So you can kind of, hopefully the lighting isn't too awkward, but we have some water tanks in here at the moment. We're just gonna go ahead and top off water in a bit. But you can see here, it's got it's actually about 7 feet of space. We have plenty of room with both of us being under 5'10" here. But that said, if you were 6 foot, 6'5", you'd still have room to sleep in here. The mattress doubles as a little couch at the same time. It is only memory foam, so you sink into it in like a weird position. There's no like hard durometer foam inside of it. So I might upgrade this or just slide a harder foam pad inside of it. But this folds down like this, and essentially the entire mattress folds out like that. And since the bottles are in there, we're just going to go ahead and give you an idea of just kind of like what it's like here. Put your mattress on, or put your pads on, whatever you may need, your sheet, pillows, and you're ready for bed here. Folding it up takes just a couple minutes. Hop back in for the rainstorm. It's really cold outside. A couple years ago, we went to King of the Hammers, and it's in the desert, so nobody really expects it to rain and to have a hurricane pass through. But a couple years ago, there was a hurricane that passed through the Johnson Valley area, and it was like 3 inches of standing water, sand and mud everywhere, and it was like 35, 40 degrees. It was just miserable, and we brought tents to sleep on the ground. It was not a fun experience. That's kind of the inspiration for getting this, actually. 1,850 pounds dry. When we had it all loaded up with 18 gallons of water in the tank, it was about 2,400 pounds. We had it weighed on a cat scale at a truck stop. So if you kind of come back into the trailer with me here, this kind of gives you an idea of just like how much standing space you may have. in here, we got the stargazer window option as well, which actually does illuminate the stars very well while you're sleeping. Just wake up in the middle of the night, look straight out, and it's just an amazing view. But it gets a little bit more daylight in here too, since you know, we only got 2 windows on the doors anyways. So this is about how much space you get. It's about squatting space. Sitting down or laying down, it's about the same amount of space as a rooftop tent in terms of inside here. But go ahead and hand me the camera here. Once you go ahead and stand up in here, you can see there's plenty of space. So with me being 5'9", I still have probably 4 feet of space above my head here. And of course, plenty of space to throw your gear up here during the daytime, or sleep up here when it's hot out. Or if you have just 4 people, or maybe you got 3 kids, they can all sleep up top here. And the one pro I will say when it comes to this tent, the fact that it's 8 or 9 inches thick when it's closed, is it leaves plenty of space for storage. So we have an electric blanket we leave up here, the ladder, and my 200-watt solar panel. So it also will fit pillows up here, and maybe a couple extra sleeping bag items and stuff like that, but it does get full pretty quick with just these items here. Maybe a pillow or 2 is all we could really fit in remaining here. They do leave a condensation mat, and this is their handiwork here. They have a separate mattress to kind of make up for that. So you can either crawl right up from the inside of the trailer, or use the ladder and the side entrance here to get into the tent from the outside, in case you got 4 people sleeping with you. We also have this rail system here to mount a net. The net serves 2 purposes. It keeps kids from falling out, and also it's a great storage area while you're traveling and road tripping here. We just leave the net tucked into the pockets up there. All right, down in the main cabin here, I got a couple of plugs. We have a QC USB, 12-volt charger, and when the inverter is running, we got 120 volts. And then, of course, there's a shore power hookup where we wouldn't be needing inverter. Now, when it comes to our little storage here, you get a individual private compartment here, and then a pass-through compartment. We just got some cups and stuff in my handmade little cubbies there. Had to cut them down so I could reach things easier. Same thing, pass through, a little private compartment for the interior. This is just a storage space. They have so many options when it comes to custom building these. There's so many different options for the cabinetry. You can have a shelf put over here on the side. But that said, I kind of want to create a little compartment here to create this as a pass-through as well. Due to the fact that there's a tent up here, they had to put the vents on the side here. So this is Max Fan, their little 6-inch fan vents here, one on each side with an intake vent there. They work probably about 60% of the capacity of like the main Ultra Max fan, which is a fantastic product, but just won't work with our rooftop tent. A couple more details that I wanted to add into the review is the fit and finish of everything, because it is a hand-built trailer and everything is cut to size here. It's all CNC cut, but there are still some little things going on here where you get a little bit of some just blemishes here like that. Remember, this is like sunken a little too much. And the big bolt there is where the rooftop tent is mounted in, and other than like a couple of them just sunk in a little too deep, it's really not that much of an issue. Right here, a little bit too much of a gap. Then on the other side there, it's also not that big of a deal. It's like maybe 1/8 of an inch bigger. And this butyl tape that they use to seal this window. 2 things about fit and finish is this is just like a polycarbonate plexiglass, and it gets scratched very easily. So besides the little dirt smudges on the inside here, which I need to clean off, there's a lot of scratches on the outside from straps and stuff hanging down while I was driving here. And then this stuff, the butyl tape, heats up and it starts to drip out, and I have to push it back in to the corners here after really hot days, and it's full of bugs. These little brown dots are dead bugs. The other parts are the trim used. You can see that this is just trim for your house here. Just trim for the kitchen floor. It looks like this kind of fell out of place a little bit. The door handles got a little rattly. And the door latches got rattly. I tightened these screws already. I just need to tighten the screws for the handle here. Same thing happened on the other handle. Other than a few screws loosening up, some of the wood chipping out, and some of the frame trim just looking like whatever you'd find from Home Depot. Fit and finish is pretty satisfactory in my opinion here. There are a little bit of gaps there on the outside of the cabinet. And this is changed between heavy off-roading, heat, and pressure changes, so the wood in here has been shifting. The one last thing is that when we did receive this, I had the trailer at my house for a month before we took off on our road trip. And since it was a new trailer, it still smelled like wood stain, and it was so pungent and potent, it was making us sick. And so if you do get one of these trailers new, especially if it's made of wood, you're going to want a lot of air out for at least a month before you use it, or it's just intoxicating, especially considering it's summertime and it's very hot outside, so it's just off-gassing continuously, but that's about it. I optioned to have the blackout curtains here on the side, which is a must. Even though this is tinted windows, you want the privacy, and these actually do a great job of completely blacking things out. And when the doors close, it will pinch against the mattress, sealing it better here than any hotel curtains, honestly. Coming around the side, you got these galvanized steel fenders. You can absolutely put all your weight on this. Maybe a 250-pound man could walk on these here. I had it optioned with 31s just because I did a little bit of math and I was looking at the rates that they were charging for tire upgrades, and I would have been able to just get a little bit of better rate myself. So I got the 31s. I do want to go with 33s or maybe even a little bigger. I believe, you know, 33s would fit flawless. Hopefully I could fit some 35s on it. Would be pretty great. That said, the suspension doesn't flex very much, so I don't think I'm going to have too many issues with that. But in consideration of the suspension, it's an independent torsion style suspension made from Dexter. They're 3,500-pound torsion springs on each side, so you can put around a couple thousand pounds of payload in the trailer and still have decent spring rate on this. The total length of the trailer is about 15 feet. The usable space of it's about 10, and so you got about a 2.5 foot section of storage on the front, obviously where we kept our equipment, hitch, box, so it does add up to being about 15 feet. So you're going to be traveling around 30 feet or more when it comes to your overall length. Now, the one thing that attracted me to Venture Overland Campers, in consideration to all the many other companies out there, was the fact of the style of galley kitchen that they have here. I'm sure there are some other companies out there that I just wasn't aware of, and or new companies. But I looked at the hiker campers, I looked at Zion trailers, I looked at a bunch of different companies I can't even remember at this point. They do all kind of look similar, and so I wanted to get something that was going to be truly practical. Having a full stainless steel galley here is truly amazing. I can put my grill right in here. I have a full 18-gallon water tank here where we can go ahead and do dishes afterwards. I went ahead and did a couple extra modifications to this, so I have a quick disconnect on the tip of the sink here, and just makes dishes or washing your feet or washing someone's car that much easier, that much more convenient here. And so we pretty much just have similar galley, similar storage, I mean, on the back here with the pass-through section where we can both get food and or cooking gear from inside or outside in case the weather's too poor to cook on the outside. Usually it would be just boiling water anyways on the inside. And then our compartments here as well. And this is where I put my grill here. It fits perfectly in this spot. It's a pretty decent sized griddle. And then we have the rest of our storage, chips, tea bags, stuff like that going up top here. Dry food goes here, and the rest of our storage and supplies. Over here, more storage. This is just kind of like your stuff that you'd have under every kitchen sink, basically. Bottle opener, and I did not option it with a fridge because their fridge option was $1,300. This one was $450. So this is from I believe it's pronounced Bouge RV, B-O-U-G-E RV. I really just needed the fridge that was going to fit, and there was 2 fridge companies that had the right dimensions. That was also a dual fridge, and not too big, and obviously not too small to the point where I'm wasting space. And that was this fridge and the fridge that they were selling from, I believe, Iceco, 1300 versus 450. So we went with this fridge. I've heard great things about it. We used it for the last month. Freezer fridge combo doesn't really work that great unless you got the fridge setting on the lower side, or you got the fridge or the freezer setting at like -5. They got to be split really far for them to like work decent. We used it as a full fridge, and inside our tow vehicle I have another electric fridge that we just had in the freezer setting, so it worked out. We had an individual freezer and an individual fridge, but for short trips we do plan on renting the trailer. This is just all you need right here. There are stabilizer jacks on the rear, which are honestly a joke. This is one of the, I wouldn't say con, but just like the not well thought out process of terms of stabilizing the vehicle. You can drop these down and then raise the trailer up, but that's not really going to level things out. That just gets you stable. So like if you're only camping in campgrounds, or you live in a very, very flat place, then it's not going to be a bother. I'm going to get rid of these. I'm going to custom weld on some mounts for some removable scissor jacks. And I'm thinking about just the rear 2 corners here, kind of giving a triangle approach, but if it's not able to stabilize well, I'll just have to go with all 4 corners. So let's keep on coming around the back here. I actually have some metal plates that I put up here for magnetic lights. So I have some like yellow and red lights. This bright white blue style light tracks a lot of bugs. But as you can see, the roof comes out, I'd say probably about maybe 3 feet from the edge of the galley. So as long as it's not raining sideways, you can get plenty of comfort being under here. And as long as you can think ahead to orient the trailer just right, you're gonna have a great little piece of shade here. So everything has locks on it, all the latches have locks on it. And from this perspective, you should be able to see the solar panels up here. There's our 2 100-watt panels. They're rated at 130, but it's a China brand, so I'm calling them 100-watt panels because both of them together on a good day only makes 150 to 140 watts. That's perfect lighting, perfect weather, not too hot. So I'm probably going to upgrade that, but at this point, the fact that we're towing it often enough, I'm able to just charge the battery off the alternator. So coming around the side here, this was what came with the vehicle. The only things I optioned myself was the heater, the cooler, or I should say the heater, the air conditioning, and the refrigerator. Everything else was a part of the trailer that I optioned out. Now this is a 180 awning. We've all seen those before. It's also from Overland Vehicle Systems. I already have a 180 awning on my 4Runner here. It's the older version of it, but it's been great, and so it's nice to have shade on each side. Or I can detach, drive the 4Runner around, and get about 30 to 40 foot swath of shade between both of the awnings combined here. And so, last thing to point out here are these little rail systems that are an option from Overland Campers here. And I haven't seen this, but I also haven't been specifically looking for other types of trailers that offer this. So they actually included these little Rubbermaid totes. You could probably get some better quality ones that aren't, so flexible. But these little rails here allow you to take your totes. We use them to store our shoes, dirty shoes and stuff like that, and you can fit 3 of them underneath the trailer here. We actually, they say on their website, do not travel with them underneath the trailer. Well, we had forgotten 3 different times and traveled like 30 to 100 miles with them underneath the trailer, and they didn't fall off, they were fine. So I think just getting some that aren't too flexible so they're a little stronger, and maybe creating some kind of a pin or a bar so they don't slide out the side, and you can get away with just kind of keeping your stinky shoes and stinky clothes out of the vehicle here. That said, in terms of clearance, if you are getting a little crazy off-road, you need that maximum clearance, you can actually take these pins here and just remove the rails themselves. There is no skid plate on it. I did not option it for a skid plate, and now that I think about it, I don't think that they even offer that as an option. So in time, I'm just gonna get my own diamond plate, cut it, screw it into the bottom of the frame, call it good. It's pretty much all relatively a smooth, flat surface with just a bunch of C-channel that I can just screw it right into. When it comes to the construction of the trailer, it's made of a composite plywood, which keeps it lightweight, considering this is a 250-pound rooftop tent, the awning is 50 pounds, we got a spare tire, and even though it's, you know, no water was in it, we got a water tank. I think that's just pretty much all there is to it when it comes to like the basics. It's 1,850 pounds. And so having every little bit of weight that you can shed by using wood instead of metal, when it doesn't necessarily need to be as structurally strong as possible, is a really, really smart idea in my book here. For example, this is a 2024 model. It was a demo model that they used at their expos, and so I got about $1,500 off just for that. And then they gave me another $500 discount for delivery. And so even though it's a year old, it's like new and hadn't been purchased yet. Had been at a few expos on the East Coast, but Venture Overland Campers is based in Alabama. They had this shipped to my front door for 21 grand. And in my opinion, that was a pretty dang good deal, just because I had seen multiple campers for 30, 40 grand that were the same size, same tech, maybe a little better suspension, maybe a little bit more metal involved, but then now we're talking 2,500 pounds dry weight. So right now our wet weight with all of our gear is the same weight as the trailers that I was looking at in competition that cost 10 grand more, and obviously are around 500 to 800 pounds heavier. The last things that I wanted to cover when it comes to the trailer here before I get into pros and cons is my personal modifications that I did before we left and what I expect and plan on doing in the future now that I have a better idea, now that we've spent 40 nights camping in the trailer here. And so first of those little mods here are going to be up front. I modified, not even a modification really, it's just like a little accessory. I just added a small little 12-volt socket on the outside here of the battery box, which is just wired directly into the battery. And so this is to power the diesel heater or any other accessories that you may need to power off the front of the camper. I got that idea actually because VOC already has a small accessory 12-volt outlet on the back rear outside of the trailer here. Next modification is going to be a tankless hot water system. Now I already own one from Camp Lux, but I'm sure you may have seen the like the Pelican case, ammo case that's mounted on the outside of the trailer that has the water tank and the water heater mounted into that. Water tank is in the back and it's an 18-gallon tank here. And so there's just a couple hoses that run for one from the filler and then up to the sink here. And so what I did was, just moving this for a second here. What I did was I created a splitter here where I could disconnect the sink and reconnect it to the hot water line running right from the hot water pump. And then I also have a side quick disconnect here, so I can run the sink and my side shower simultaneously, or run this from the cold water into the hot water tank. Now this is the area where we're going to mount it, just right here in the wall. Drill a hole where I can run the hoses in, where I can connect the cold water line straight to the tankless hot water heater. I try to think of everything as best as possible here. For example, sometimes if you're at a state park, they won't let you take a shower right at the campsite. There's a variety of other rules and things at every state and every place on how you can dispose of your gray water. And so when it comes to that, sometimes you get an option or a concrete pad, or maybe you can just get far enough out on the grass where you can bring a portable shower tent. So that's kind of the goal here, is being able to have complete modularity where you can take a shower 30 feet away, use it for hot water in the sink, or you can just plumb it straight from the sink here and into a hose or a shower head, just like this. So washing feet, washing dishes, washing yourself over there with hot or cold water, or just have a hose where you can fill up a water tank, an external water tank, in case you want to be there to help somebody out. Here is our accessory / storage compartment here. I already pointed out the inverter, but this is our shore power with several more 120 volt plugs here, plus 2 more USB. So we just have a ton of potential for plugs and power. I take the shore power and plug it directly into the inverter, and then everything inside the car here, including these plugs, will then have up to 1,000 watts of power. Or you could just run the cord. I have a rag stuffed in here to keep dust from coming in. And or you could just run an extension cord out to an outlet if you're at a state park style campground versus dispersed camping. I do have my thick battery cables for the inverter running right up through the floor here, but I got to seal this with rubber. You can see how dusty this has gotten. That's the downside to actually off-roading here. Extension hoses, electrical extension cord, and this is for filling up the water tank here. And you can see we got about maybe like 5/8 of a tank. This lasts us about 4 days if we're just moderately washing our hands. If we're taking a shower, uses about half a tank. If we're both taking a quick shower, if we want to both take a decent shower, it'll use the whole tank taking a shower. So that said, having my modular hot water, tankless hot water heater mounted right where the X is on the XTR, I could have that plumbed right in from a actual high pressure line or run it off the tank. So again, just as much modularity as possible with all of this. So well, that wraps things up. Thanks for watching my review video. I am trying to be more concise and coherent when it comes to what's important versus what you guys want to hear. I also have a lot of good ideas and a lot of thoughts about what could work better or worse, as well as just kind of giving input to these manufacturers and these companies. There's a few things I fixed myself after getting the trailer that I just wasn't too happy with. For example, they were little things and not worth pointing out, like seals and certain kinds of things like caulking in the corners and things like that. Just little small manufacturer defects. But overall, I will just keep making videos as I modify the trailer here, and just overall my general opinions and improvements that I make over it. The last thing we'll go over are the pros and cons. Pros: hook right up, take off. You don't have to set down your entire camp. It is low enough to fit into an 8-foot style garage, and since it's 15 feet, the length of a normal car, it'll fit in almost everybody's garage. And if you live in a place like I do with an HOA that is pretty much just micromanaging everything every person does that lives there, it's great to be able to put it in the garage. Hook up, go camping, park in the garage, not even worry about it and leaving it dirty. Store all your gear in it. Campsite, rug, chairs, shoes, dog, throw it all in the trailer and take off. You don't have to organize the car anymore, which is what we've been doing. The cons: you now have an extra 15 feet of vehicle, essentially it's a trailer obviously, that you got to deal with now when it comes to visiting any downtown in any city, anywhere in the country. Even the smallest towns, they're going to have a hard time parking. The next thing is outside of having a hard time parking, there's a lot of places that just don't even allow trailers at all. A couple of the national parks we went to, there were entire roads 20-30 miles long that wouldn't even allow trailers. So that said, those are usually an expectation to people with the 30-40 foot long travel trailers, but no trailers means no trailers, even if it's a little teardrop. So that's a major con on that as well. One thing that's more of a complaint than a con per se is the suspension on the trailer. It's a torsion style suspension, so there's no dampening. It's just a spring that's getting twisted basically. So coming off of curbs or hitting small rocks, maybe 3 to 8 inches in height above the dirt, will make the trailer bounce significantly. And if you don't catch that rock or drive over it or around it, the trailer is going to bounce hard. And we had a couple times where the trailer was bouncing like this, looking in the camera in the rearview mirror. So definitely I would like to see some dampening. That's maybe something I could do and just add a small little shock to it myself, perhaps. I don't know. But overall, it's not so much a thing with the trailer, but just that style of suspension. And most companies use torsion style suspension, whether it's with a spring or with rubber. So that's just a personal thing for me, honestly. Last thing. Okay, so last thing that I have in my mind here is if you're not using a standard height vehicle like a no Silverado or F-150, or it'll be able to hook up just fine. You got 3 different positions for the hitch. I have mine maxed out on the top position, and the trailer still rides at like a 20-degree incline. And so we can't sleep comfortably inside of it unless we detach, unless we're just trying to take a nap or something like that, because you're inclined. Doing dishes is weird, everything's rolling off. And the reason why I'm talking about this as a complaint here is because, like, well, why don't you just, put the wheel down, jack it up, and take it off the hitch? And that is because the trailer jack that they have on here is a normal size, normal style trailer jack, and it's not meant for a lifted vehicle. I probably have a total of like 4 inches of lift from a normal 4Runner. And so the trailer is always like this, and I have to use trailer stabilizing blocks just to have the wheel reach the ground to be able to lift it off the hitch. So the other con, I guess, it's not so much a trailer thing, but the accessory and what lack of options, I should say, that they had for their accessories. But I'm going to go ahead and get the, I think it's called like ARK Industries, I believe. It's like ARK for their brand. They make these heavy duty off-road trailer jacks. They're all made in Australia. They're super extended length. They, you know, extend out to 24 inches. And this is only like, I believe, an 18-inch extension. So it'll be more than enough to get it and jack it up high enough to actually properly hitch this thing, and also just make it simpler for doing a quick unhitching to sleep. And that's pretty much all about, you know, when it comes to the pros and cons for all of that. Adding the new jack, adding the hot water heater on the side, and just kind of like doing little fixes and things like that are all I really have planned, other than upgraded tire size. Maybe I might go about including a shock dampener in the suspension in the future. But overall, my wife and I are completely satisfied with this trailer. It served us in so many purposes in so many areas. A light blanket kept both of us warm all the way down to 40 degrees. And when it dipped down into the 30s, we got a little chilly, but adding another blanket just solved all of that. Sleeping in 85, 90 degree weather, decently comfortable with our air conditioner. And, you know, with the power system that we have and the big enough battery we have, we were comfortable and confident for ourselves and for our pet as well. So I did want to make a little bit of a comment here, and or just a PSA. If you do have an older vehicle and you are going to be towing, and you're going to be towing as much as we did here. And so this is my 2002 4Runner. If you've seen my other videos, you are aware of that. And I've done quite a bit of mods to this. What hasn't been modified is the engine and the transmission. I do have 529 gears, but I also do have heavy beadlock wheels, and I do have heavy 35-inch tires from Nitto. They're the Terra Grapplers, so they're just very heavy, very strong tires. That said, I did buy the brand new 1320 supercharger from Magnuson before our trip. It was 3 weeks late after waiting 5 weeks, and we were running out of time. So we had to depart on our trip before I was able to supercharge the vehicle. So if you're wondering, full armor, full bumpers, full accessories, car full of gear, awning on the side, you know, 2 people and a pet, and an electric refrigerator full of gear, all my tools, 4 gallons of spare gas, spare water, and a 10-gallon propane tank on the back. The vehicle itself, I had to weight on a scale. The trailer and the vehicle at the same time. The car weighed 6,400 pounds, which is pretty much 200 to 300 pounds over the max gross on it. So definitely want to work on keeping weight down, although it did drive pretty well, having the wide body, wide front suspension on here. So it's 6,400 pounds, 2,400 pound trailer. I could have the numbers off a little, but I do remember the total was 8,800 pounds for the total towing. So that said, 8,800 pounds, stock transmission, stock engine, 529 gears, very heavy. We went up Colorado's 550. We went up through the passes through Montana, the Cascades, and Yosemite Valley, which was insane personally. And then climbing from Barstow up the Colorado Plateau, through Kingman, through the desert, climbing 5,000 feet over like 45 miles of just revved out, 4,000 RPM, second gear, I'm sorry, 4,000 RPM, second gear for mile after mile after mile. Now, when it came to that, the engine performed flawlessly. I did have to replace the fan clutch before leaving, but temps stayed around 205 at a max climb, and that's not a high RPM, that's low RPM, high load. Once I would downshift, temps would drop right back down to around 200 to 195. And if it was below 90 out, it never overheated. It was only in triple digits that it started to get a little warm after climbing with 8,800 pounds, 5,000 feet of elevation over 40 miles in the, and starting off at sea level as well. So the vehicle was struggling pretty dang hard coming through the coming through the California Mojave Desert. And so the one complaint I would have is I'd need a bigger radiator, but overall you do not need to supercharge it. And the transmission itself is capable of doing it. No slipping, no burning. It did get really hot. I do have a transmission gauge for temps. It got up to 240 a couple times. The overheating light doesn't come on till like 260, 270. Fluid's not burned. I change my fluid every 10,000 miles anyways, 15,000 miles anyways. It's about once a year, and so I'm not really worried about those temps necessarily in terms of the longevity of the fluid, but it never totally overheated. I do have an auxiliary cooler for the transmission. But really where the main struggle was the torque converter. So at like 9,000 to 10,000 feet in Colorado, foot to the floor, barely moving just to accelerate on nearly flat ground, let alone like get out onto an interstate on-ramp. And so the torque converter is on its way out. It was already whining a little bit even before this. Honestly, I had a transmission fluid flush, started whining after that. I'm just going to blame the shop because, you know, it was perfect and flawless before that, but I'm also not mad at the shop because I got 270,000 miles on this torque converter. So other than that, the vehicle did decent. It made it. It was moving sometimes as slow as 10 miles an hour with my foot to the floor in first gear. And in this specific mountain range in the Navajo reservation called the Chuksa Mountains on the Arizona-New Mexico border, it was like a 10% uphill grade on switchbacks. It was the most insane drive. Everyone was like, watch out for Colorado, watch out for Washington, watch out for California. And it was literally these random little mountains that were straight up and straight down before you drop into Shiprock, New Mexico. And that was where I had to put it in 4 low. And we were going 20 miles an hour with the, the tachometer just pegged out at 4,000 RPM, third gear and 4 low, ton of cars behind us, just to be able to make it up and over the mountain without my engine and transmission, mostly the transmission overheating on that. That was the one major stressful component and not a major highway. It was just something we were doing from Canyon de Chelly, getting out to Aztec National Monument. So we took the shortest path up and over this crazy mountain. And so overall, my 4Runner here, which I call Big Bertha, was flawless. It never overheated, never leaked anything, never had any problems amongst anything, except for that fan clutch that I replaced right before we left. Does need a bigger radiator. Does need a better fan clutch, I will admit, because if I was to supercharge it and then hit the road, I would have definitely been overheating, or worse, I may have even had an entire transmission failure. So 6,000 miles, crazy grades, foot to the floor, mile after mile after mile, driving day after day after day, completely flawless. I will get the torque converter replaced eventually, and when I do end up supercharging it, I'll be able to do a little bit more test drives, maybe 1,000 to 2,000 mile trips in the local Southwest before hitting the road long term again. But the last thing, the one real major con, is that I was just completely overweight. Even with trailer brakes, it's just too much weight for this little old car here, honestly. So 1,000 to 2,000 miles maybe, but if we're gonna go all the way to the Pacific Northwest again, I think I'm gonna use my normal car. And that's the best part about our trailer, is anything can tow the trailer. So thanks for watching, you guys. It's a little bit of a tidbit. A lot of people doubting this when it was posted on forums and on Facebook and stuff like that, if the car was even gonna make it. I was doing 45, 50 miles an hour on I-70 on the steepest parts and on the easy grade between Steamboat and going on west from there. I was doing 60, 65 on the interstate with grades at the same time, overdrive off, doing pretty well. So just wanted to fill you guys in with that. I've had a lot of time to think about this stuff and basically give your guys' 4Runner a chance to tow something. It does actually pretty well. So I hope you guys enjoyed this review. Hopefully it's not too long. I'm only going to get better and more specific and align things that you guys are looking to see and view as each video goes on. So just leave a comment what you like, what you didn't like, and what of course I can do better. And if you are anticipating anything like this, you're getting into overlanding, you're getting into camping, and I just haven't reviewed something or spoken about it, just shoot a message or a comment as well. With my full-time job and my life and the summer heat and stuff like that in Arizona, it's been hard to film. And so I do intend on making more videos here with the time to come. Adventures, review videos, mechanic stuff, and just maybe a couple other little random things in between. So thanks for watching, you guys, and have a great day.
I just want to touch on again and reiterate just how in love I am with this trailer and how it entirely enhances our off-road and overland experiences. More importantly, the fact that we can just drop the trailer and go straight to off-roading without having to unload the truck specifically, reorganize, and have any kind of worry about our more precious items and or just like food, for example, flying around everywhere while we're trying to have some fun on the beach or on the dunes or off-roading the trails in Colorado. Unfortunately, I didn't get any footage of Corkscrew Gulch in Colorado, but if you're familiar with the San Juan Mountains, as long as there's just enough room for 2 cars to pull over, this trailer will go just up and around any shelf road. On the highway, she tows like a dream, pivots very quickly, and it's barely noticeable behind you. But when it comes to off-roading, other than the extra length, this thing will go anywhere you will, and it corners also incredibly tight. As long as you're able to maintain traction, you'll be able to pull the trailer up and over anything the vehicle will be able to go. Rooftop tents really should be limited to just highway vehicles and not on the vehicle of anything that actually intends on going off-roading, because you're being so dramatically held back with 150 to 200 pounds on the highest point. I cannot wait to supercharge the 4Runner here, and this is where I am the most aware of just how underpowered the vehicle is.